In honor of this Juneteenth holiday, we celebrate by telling you the amazing story of John Hunter and his descendants. While looking into the history of upcoming Dix Park, Ernest uncovered a history that happened before the Dorothea Dix Hospital occupied the land where the Springfield plantation once stood. We took a trip to the City of Raleigh Museum to find out more. Hello everyone, we're here at the City of Raleigh Museum with Ernest, who's the executive director of this museum as well as the Pope House Museum. And Ernest, it's so nice of you to take time for us.
Well, thank you guys for coming in.
You work for the City of Raleigh, and there's a really unique story behind all of this. You're also an historian. So why don't you tell the story you were relating to me? How in the world did you get involved in this?
As director, we sort of look around to do exhibits that really help tell the story of Raleigh's history. We knew that the city had bought the old Dorothea Dix Hospital campus in 2015, and we wanted to do our due diligence to help promote the park. So we worked on an exhibit that would tell the story of the people who worked there, the patient experience, and to sort of give the community a chance to see what the plans for the park were. But as we started to research the park, we discovered that before it was a hospital, which opened its doors in 1856, that it had once been a plantation of the Hunter family. So we had to step back and say, if we were truly going to tell the story of this entire site, we have to tell the story of these first peoples who were here. So in researching that, we made an incredible discovery of the enslaved community that was there. And we were able to, by sheer luck, and hard work, to track down some of the descendants of those people who were enslaved there starting back into the 1700s. So I think for a lot of folks who are related to John Hunter and who had ancestors who had been enslaved in the United States, it is just a small way to say, hey, we acknowledge this story, we want to tell this story, and most of all, as we go forward in America, we don't want to forget this story again. So I think it's just a small way to say that we need to justify and to acknowledge this experience and to make peace with it. So I think just telling that story is going to hopefully do that.
Let's go back. Hunter, right? John Hunter. You've discovered that here's a man who's 100 plus years old, and that catches your eye. How long did it take, and how many people were involved in breaking down who this man was and then ultimately tracking down his family tree and those who may be with us today?
Sure. So once I discovered the John Hunter existed and found his obituary, I asked myself, could I trace his family? Because in his obituary, he talked about his children and grandchildren. So we had 3 generations right there. And so I didn't really expect to get very far because, again, you had mentioned earlier that African-American genealogy is so difficult, especially before the Civil War. So just as a futile exercise, I said, all right, well, let's just poke around and see if I could find out who their children were and their children. And it just kept on going and going. And the more folks I found in Uncle John's family tree, it truly became an American story. So I found early legislators, I found architects, I found Tuskegee Airmen, I found artists. And it truly, the more the tree blossomed, that family tree, it truly reflected so much of that American story. And I eventually wore down the family tree to living descendants. And it's really hard to contact living people than dead people. So it was hard to find somebody to answer the phone when I called and told them this incredible story on their answering machine. But I eventually did get to a living descendant of Uncle John living in New York named Juanetta Worthy. And that was an incredible...
What was that like? What was that like?
I had contacted her husband and had said, hey, are you married to Juanetta? And he said, yeah. So I knew I had her. And so we scheduled to talk. And one of the first things when I introduced myself, and she said, I've been waiting for your call. And to tell this incredible story, which is mind-blowing to anybody who did not know this call was coming, that in the 1760s, I have traced your family back here to Raleigh from the Bronx. And so it was powerful. And what really touched me the most was when Juanetta said that she really felt that it was the ancestors that brought us together, that it was more than just dumb luck, that we were guided to meet in this destined conversation. And so it took a lot of conversations to explain what we wanted to do and the research, and to convince them that, yeah, this was a legitimate story, and to sort of talk to them about what their story meant to Dorothea Dix and to us in Raleigh. To somehow make this connection over 3 centuries was pretty powerful for us here, and I'm sure for her family as well. And so she talked to her family, and they talked among themselves, and they knew they were from Raleigh, but that story had been lost when they headed north during the Great Migration of the 1930s and 40s. So they had really lost their connection to Raleigh. And so to lay this at their feet again was overwhelming for not only us, but for them as well.
The family came to Raleigh, or at least part of the family.
Yeah,
there was quite a number of them.
We thought it would be pretty incredible to get them back to Raleigh to sort of explore all their family had done and how it shaped this city from its very foundations. And so I extended the offer to Annette and her family, and I was expecting 3 or 4 folks to come down. But when they arrived with like 28 people, we were overwhelmed. And I knew it was truly special when the newest baby of the family came down. And without knowing any of this history, the baby's name was Hunter.
I'll be darned.
Yeah, it was an incredibly moving moment. And so we took them on a trolley tour. We showed them around to all the places that their families had helped build, helped shape, and were a part of. And so it was just an emotional weekend for everybody.
I've done a little genealogy. I don't have the quality that this family had. I mean, there were some real achievers that have done some real cutting edge things that you mentioned. It was the American story, especially coming from a former slave.
Yeah, and like I said, the more we got into their family tree, it was an American story. So John's son-in-law was named Stuart Ellison. Not only did he help build Dorothea Dix, he became one of the state's first black legislators, an architect, went on to be a profound, important political leader in the post-Civil War Raleigh. Another descendant was one of the first black representatives in the Illinois State House. He was a Tuskegee Airman fighting World War II. Another descendant was with Alvin Ailes, the dance company in New York, was in the 50s and 60s that revolutionized modern dance in America. Another one was one of the first black women on Wall Street. So it truly is such an American story, from going from being perceived as property to owning property. And this is all they did in the wake of such traumatic beginnings. It truly epitomizes that American dream.
What a pleasure, sir. Thank you for all you're doing.
Oh, appreciate it.
All right, stick around. We'll be back.